Hello. Today we will be discussing our results from our survey that analyzed the relationship between Facebook use and the workplace. After gathering research from two separate companies with a total of nearly 40 results, we were able to draw various conclusions about the data. Before examining our findings, we devised two research questions in which we used as the context for our analysis. The first was, what is the relationship between Facebook use and image and the perception that it is a relatively advantageous tool within the workplace? And second, we sought to discover how an individual's Facebook's behavior relates to their perception of their image and their belief that using Facebook is advantageous in the workplace. In relation to these questions, we constructed two hypotheses for what we believed our data would show. The first was that those who feel that Facebook enhances their image within the workplace will as well feel that there is an advantage to using Facebook at work. Second, we hypothesized that individuals who consider themselves adopters will feel more strongly than any other group that Facebook enhances their image, and that as well it is an effective workplace tool. Furthermore, we believed that a quantitative method was the most appropriate approach to the study because quantitative investigation is a methodical, experimental examination of social phenomena. This is done through statistical, numerical, or calculation techniques. Since we were looking to explore social phenomena and obtain statistics about this phenomena, this was the perfect approach to use. The first test that we ran with the data was a correlation that looked at the relationship between Facebook use and image and the perceived relative advantage of Facebook within the workplace. As a reminder, the following questions were related to image and scored on a 1 to 5 Likert type scale ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. The same Likert type scale was used to measure the following questions relating to relative advantage of using Facebook within the workplace. We conducted the means of each score we received in each of these clusters, and our findings showed a positive correlation between image and relative advantage. As you can see, the correlation between these two variables was significant at the 0.01 level. The Pearson correlation value was 0.972, meaning it is highly correlated. For those who perceive that Facebook is a highly effective communication tool, they as well perceive one's image to be elevated. At this point, we decided to investigate whether the perceived image or relative advantage were substantially different between different types of Facebook users. To do this, we conducted an ANOVA test with the independent variables being one's stance on adding friends from work on Facebook. The label of these stances were either adopters, discontinuers, deactivators, potentials, or resistors.
Before running the ANOVA, we decided to begin with what we thought would be the groups with the largest differences. It became clear that the most contrasting groups would be the adopters and resistors, so we ran an independent t-test between the two with relative advantage questions and image questions as the dependent variables. From this, we gained data that seemed as obvious as the grass is green and the sky is blue. It was clear that they had greatly differing opinions when it came to Facebook as a communication tool, relative advantage, as well as its influence on personal image. In this first image, you can see the questions regarding relative advantage. Now, all of them have a significance of 0.000, which means that they are statistically significant, and that the null should be rejected. You must also note that 0.000 does not mean that that is the actual number, but that it is below 0.001. Now in the second image, you can see the questions relating to image, and that they too as well have a statistical significance because their significance level is below 0.000, or sorry, below 0.001. After having these fundamental building blocks established, we ran a one-way ANOVA to examine the differences between all user groups. We compared each group, adopters, discontinuers, deactivators, potentials, and resistors, with the means of both the relative advantage cluster as well as the image cluster. Results again showed a clear difference between the adopters and resistors, but also gave insight to the other groups. From this image, you can see there is also a difference between adopters and potentials, as well as adopters and discontinuers. There is also a difference between discontinuers and potentials, as well as discontinuers and resistors. As seen in our results, there is a significant difference between adopters and potentials in both relative advantage and image. We ran a t-test to examine the differences between the two groups. We found a statistically significant difference between the two in all 6 questions regarding image and 5 of the 6 regarding relative advantage. This led to our conclusion that their perception of Facebook's relative advantage and its effects on personal image have led to the potential group's hesitancy to use it as a workplace communication tool. The reason why there is a statistical significance in only 5 of the 6 questions can be seen in this image. Facebook and communication effectiveness received a significance level of 0.009, which is therefore above the threshold of 0.005 and must accept the null hypothesis. Lastly, we ran a t-test to determine the difference between adapters and discontinuers. While there was no significant difference in terms of image, there was a difference regarding relative advantage. We concluded that within the relative advantage cluster, there was a significant difference in Facebook and accomplishment of organizational goals, Facebook's improvement of communication quality, and Facebook easing communication interaction. It is perhaps these differences that have led discontinuers to no longer use Facebook as a tool in the workplace. As you can see, none of these questions received a significance below 0.005, so therefore they must all accept the null hypothesis.
To further our research, we conducted an interview with one of our respondents. This employee regarded herself as a resistor and explained she seldom adds her coworkers on Facebook, due to her belief that it was unnecessary for her coworkers to be involved in her personal life. She explained that other than as a marketing tool, she did not see any relative advantage to using Facebook to connect with people from the workplace.
After discovering our results, we considered how we could further elaborate on what we found. We perceived ways in which to do this would be by focusing on other forms of social media, examining the beliefs of individuals who are completely absent from the Facebook world, and examining how different work cultures and work roles affect the overall impression Facebook makes on those within the workplace.
To summarize, we concluded 4 total statistically significant results. First, we discovered that there was an overall correlation between Facebook use and image, and Facebook's relative advantage in the workplace. Next, a statistically significant difference between groups 1 and 5, which are adopters and resistors, regarding relative advantage and image. This difference can be attributed to their overall feeling towards Facebook. Considering that nature of their stance, adapters use Facebook far more than resistors. The third conclusion was that there was a statistically significant difference between adopters and discontinuers, which are 1 and 2, regarding its relative advantage. To this point, we conclude that this difference is perhaps the reason why discontinuers no longer use Facebook as a means of workplace communication. Finally, we found that there was a significant difference between adopters and potentials, 1 and 5, in terms of both relative advantage and image. Our group reasons that potentials view on relative advantage and its effect on personal image, and have led to the potential group's resistance to use it as a workplace communication tool.